I don't know about you, but I didn't really know a lot about cookies, trackers, compliance and laws when it comes to websites. But as you probably have seen, the laws and rules around privacy for websites are actually getting stricter. This is coming from the EU, this is coming from the USA, and more countries are trying to protect the website visitor. And this is great, but it's not an exciting topic. It was not something I was excited to figure out. So I kind of like left it in the back of my head, but then I met an expert named Paulo. And so I asked him to come on my live stream and explain this topic a little bit more so that I and you could learn from it. Paulo works for Usercentrics, and that is the company who owns the Cookiebot plugin. So he basically knows everything about this topic. And Cookiebot sounds like a cookie plugin, right? But what I've learned is that it's more like a consent management platform. Like cookies are the thing that store that data, and then Cookiebot is kind of like the software that lets visitors decide what they are okay with. So by installing something like this on your website, whether that's a WordPress website or outside of WordPress, because this plugin also works outside of WordPress, you're giving power to the visitor. And the most interesting thing that Paulo told me is that that actually increases conversions. And that is because there are a lot of people who actually care about cookies. But I was one of these people that always thought that nobody cared about cookies, you just click it away. But it turns out, according to research that you can find on their website, that more and more people are starting to care about this, because we live in a world right now where companies just do whatever they want with our data, and many people don't like that. So Paulo actually made me care more about compliance because he framed it as power to the people. And that's a concept that I truly believe in. And so by setting up a consent system on your website correctly, you're actually increasing trust for that company. Because if you don't have that, then all of the people who care about this will think, what are you doing with my data? So it indirectly increases conversions, because these people that care about it will then spend more time on your website because you've already earned their trust. And that's interesting for designers, because designers should care about conversions. So it turns out conversion is not just about design. And we all actually know this, because the most famous quote from Steve Jobs is, "Design is how it works." Well, I think this fits into that. He then also explained that it can actually affect Google Ads, because apparently the Google Ads system actually limits what you're able to do if your consent isn't set up correctly on your website. So this can even affect the marketing budget of your clients. So I was happy that I interviewed him in my live stream, but then of course the question came, do you want to make an actual tutorial video on it? And then I said, well, I don't know, because I already have a consent solution on my website. But then he said, just try it, because Cookiebot is actually really easy, and I know you like good UX. So I was like, sure, I will check it out. So I walked through the setup. It turned out the solution I was using before was overkill for what I was trying to do. Pricing was similar, so I was like, okay, this is actually better than what I use right now. I'm gonna make a video about it, so that's what you're watching right now. This also then means that this is a sponsored video, and I cannot guarantee you that Cookiebot is the best compliance solution in the world, because I haven't tested all of them. But what I do know is a few things: that Usercentrics is a big name in this market, that the experience is very smooth, is a proper tool, you can see that. And I know that great people are working there, like Paulo. So yeah, let me just show you around Cookiebot a little bit, and then you can decide whether this is interesting for you or for your clients. When I started in the free account, it actually threw me into this wizard. It asked me a few questions about my business. And then at some point I just had to fill in my domain. But at this point I didn't have time, so I closed it off. I logged in back again, that wizard was gone, but all of the options are here in the dashboard as well. It's just basically 3 steps. You have to add a domain, you have to configure that cookie banner that shows up on your website, and then you have to implement it into your WordPress website or into your AI generated website. I successfully also connected it to an AI generated website made in Replit, by the way. So I can assure you that it works on every single platform. So yeah, I just added my domain. And here you can already see one nice feature, and that is that they scan your website every month automatically to see what kind of tracking is going on your website. And that's one of the nice things about this platform, because I don't know a lot about cookies. And so Cookiebot just scans whatever you have on your website. So maybe you have Google Analytics on your website. It will then see that and configure it for you. So once you've added your domain and you have done a scan, you can just configure your cookie banner. And here the options are pretty easy. You can do this big pop-up like this, but I chose for this bar. Then you can add a little animation if you want. Then there are some design options right here. I changed the highlight color to the Living with Pixels color because I'm trying to set this up on my own website. Unfortunately, when you change this highlight color to something else, it doesn't actually update all of the colors from the buttons. So that's a little bit of feedback for the team. I think that should be a global brand color. You can set up your logo right here so that it shows up here on the left. It's a little bit small for my taste, so some more settings would be nice. And then over here, you can set up the compliance itself. And then over here, I recommend that you set it up to explicit consent, because that is the default for GDPR, which is the European standard. Implied consent means that it basically implies that you have already consented. So I'm leaving it at explicit, then multi-level accept only. That will basically reduce it to only one button. Only allow and decline, but multi-level, then you allow them to change the sliders individually, which is kind of like the whole goal, right? You want to give the user control, but you can customize that if you want. And then over here, you set up your region. So for me, the EU. Then you have the content tab, and that's basically the text that shows up in that little banner. And all of it is already filled out for you, but you can change what it says in the buttons. If you want, you can add that text. And you can also add a language. So for example, let's add Dutch. And there you go, everything is already translated. And with that language option, it will then automatically show the correct language based on the visitor's browser language. So you can definitely add more languages here, but Living with Pixels is only an English website. So for now, I'm just gonna delete that. And then one more tab, that is for this box that shows up if the user has already accepted or declined, because that allows you to later change your preferences. Because that's apparently also something that is required. Because if you accidentally click accept and you're like, I want to change it, I do not consent, then you can still change that. So you give the viewer the full control. Here you can see that this is a proper cookie consent plugin. That's why Paulo also said in the live stream that many cookie consent banner plugins are actually not compliant, and especially the ones that people are vibe coding themselves right now. Like, this is a part that you shouldn't vibe code, right? It's awesome that we can generate everything, but when it comes to compliance, you shouldn't generate it. Also because the laws change a lot. But okay, you have some settings here. Change the colors again. And there you go. So now that I've saved it, there's only one thing left to do, and that's just implement it on WordPress. So let's do it together. We have the WordPress option over here. So CMP banner, that basically just means the cookie banner. If you're using WordPress, you don't have to mess with the code. You can just go to the WordPress plugin. Actually, you don't even have to download this from here. You can just go to the plugin directory and search for it. There you can see 100,000 install with 4.5 stars. This is not a new small company, as I said. And now I just need to connect it to my website. So I'm just going to go to Cookiebot. I already have a Cookiebot account. And we see a very blurry image here, by the way. They should update this one. So I'm going to go to configure the settings. And here I need to put in my ID. So inside of the implementation, if I scroll down, I see my ID over here. So I'm just copy that, put it inside of my plugin, connect my account, and there you go. Now it's saved. There are some settings here. An interesting one is over here, cookie blocking automatically or manually. In the free version, you only have the manual option, and that requires a little bit more setup. So the paid option is basically simpler. And as you can see as well, it is nicely designed. It is easy. It's not overwhelming. Maybe they could decrease the size of these toggles a little bit, but at least it looks easy. So let's go to the front of my website. and let's see. So as you can see right now, it shows up on my website. That was incredibly easy. And even though the Living with Pixels logo is visible, you can also see the Cookiebot plugin. They say that that actually creates trust. But if you really don't like that, then you can add some custom CSS to hide that. And like I said, it also works on non-WordPress setups or for example, on a Vibe coded website. But then you have to add this script as the first script on the website for it to work, because it's the first thing that needs to load on the website. So yeah, as you can see, set up really easy, but what about the pricing? I already told you there is a free version, but that comes with limitations. The free version is up to 50 subpages, which is honestly fine for the majority of small websites. And it's limited to 1 domain per account, which is also fine. Then the paid pricing starts out reasonable. I checked out some competitors. And yes, this is more than most other WordPress plugins because you pay per month per domain, and that feels unusual for a plugin. But there's 2 things that are always happening in the background. One is that it's actively scanning your website for new trackers. So if you install some other plugin that's also tracking your visitors, then Cookiebot notices that automatically and integrates that into the banner. So you don't have to worry about that. And there's of course a team of humans making sure that this platform is compliant with the law. And that's not something that we can easily do ourselves. So yeah, do I like extra monthly costs? No, of course not. But the thing is, 10 years ago, nobody really cared about this. But now that more people are starting to care what's happening with their data, it makes sense for a business to also invest a little bit into this because it increases trust for the company. So that is a way you can also easily sell this idea to your clients instead of saying like, oh, it's an extra cost for compliance. No, it will probably increase trust and indirectly increase conversions, and good for Google Ads. And somebody from the community is actually already selling this in a very smart way. He told me he basically sells a compliance package to clients with a one-time setup fee to set up this, but that's easy. And then there's monthly cost for the client in order to make sure that their website stays compliant. But again, that's all happening automatically. And so it's never coming out of your own pocket, except when it's your own website. And for agencies, they actually have something interesting, and that's a reseller program. So if you're managing a lot of client websites and you are considering using this, you don't have to create one single account for every client. You get your own partner account and then you add your client's domains in there, and then you can basically buy it at a discounted rate. And then it's up to how your agency does it. You can include it in your monthly package because you're probably already letting your clients pay for multiple other stuff. But they also have a model where the client pays Cookie-Centrics or Usercentrics Cookiebot directly, and then you earn as an affiliate because your client paid for it, which is actually pretty cool. You can actually make money with it. I will place a link to this agency reseller program in the video description. So this whole topic has opened my eyes for a new type of conversion, which is like trust conversion. And if the numbers from this research are correct, which is what I'm assuming, and that number will only go up in the future, probably as more people become aware of what's happening with their data, then this will become more important in the future. And yes, Cookiebot paid me to make this video, and so I can recommend it because the experience was very nice. They are a proper company, but again, I cannot say that this is the best compliance tool in the world because I haven't tested the other ones. But I am happy that I'm now interested in this topic because I thought that it was just a boring topic. And I hope you feel the same after watching this video. I can also understand that there are questions, so you can drop them in the comments and I will ask Paolo if he will check the comments the first week to make sure that there are replies. Thank you for watching, and hopefully I will see you in the next one.